Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Reiki Women Podcasts. My name is Michaela Daystar of Heartscapes Reiki, and with me today, as always, is Bronwen Logan of Reiki with Bronwen and Carrie Varela of the Reiki Healing Society. Today's topic is one that is kind of in the background of so many conversations about the system of Reiki and about similar systems. In a recent podcast interview with the author and spiritual leader Starhawk, Adrienne Marie Brown asked her, "What is the one skill that you wish everybody had and that you most love to teach people?" And her answer was getting grounded. And that seemed like a great answer, perfect answer. It made perfect sense why getting grounded, learning how to stay grounded would be such an essential mystical tool to impact our daily life. And yet, it isn't necessarily that easy. And so today we wanted to dig into, firstly, what does it mean to get grounded? What does it feel like? How do we know whether or not we are grounded? And why might it be that it can be so challenging to get and stay grounded? I think this is an important conversation, one that is really foundational for so much of the work that we do as Reiki practitioners and as people who want to walk the earth in a more connected way. And so I'm excited to get into it. So, friends, let's start with, what does it mean and what does it feel like to be grounded? What do you think?
Okay. I love Carrie's sort of just like smile. Yeah, no,
Like, am I grounded right now? I don't even know. Just
Yeah, you seem a little spaced out, Carrie. Maybe we need to bring it down.
bring it down. Well, actually, it's the bring it down thing, isn't it? When we just thought about doing this subject, the first thing that came into my mind was, shouldn't we all be grounded anyway? I mean, it is our natural state. So it's sort of weird that it is something that we always have to talk about, work with, do practices, and we can see and we can feel that this is not the case. So it is sort of odd, and so I thought, why are we not grounded? And I guess the answer to that is in, where the Japanese have given us that beautiful, simple system, which is, looking at the body as having three areas that we work with. And it's the first step, is the grounding step. And that's at the hara, so, below the belly button. But that area in the body that when we sit back into that, when our mind sits back into that we feel this sense of we feel a part of the world. And the opposite of that is being up in our heads, right? So we have these three spaces, so the hara, the head, and the heart. And in our society today, I think that grounding is a serious issue, and it is because we are here. Yeah. And we're having to be here. We're having to be on the ball all the time. And being up here means that we're in the mind, but we're not in the body. And the body is this really, it is who we are. We're humans. We have a total physical body, and if we're not in that body, then what's going on? And when we feel in our body, when we have that sense of groundedness, of being physically a part of the world, then we feel, I guess, that the mind starts to slow. I mean, when I start if I ever want to get anyone quickly grounded, I just tell them to put their hands on their hara and breathe into it, because their mind is having to tell their hands, go here. Their mind is having to find out, where is my hara again? It follows the breath. Energy follows the breath. So everything is coming back down and into that space. So we're really going back into this earthy human space. And it means we free this up. And when we free up the head can then do all the things that it actually needs to do. So what should the head be doing? Yeah, the head should be telling our body what to do, keeping us healthy, getting our functions to do what they need to do. So we're allowing our head the space and the freedom to be itself. And that is something that I think that we often don't do. And so when we're in our head, there's all this, like, it makes me think of a cartoon where they have like, going like that. And yeah, it's too much and we can't follow it. And one more thing, and I think this will be something Michaela will be able to probably talk more about, but when we have trauma, then we go into this space in the head, don't we? And we stay in that space. And I always see it in my dog, is just the most perfect example, because she had extreme trauma as a young dog, and she just sits there and she's in her head. It's the most weirdest thing to see. And she can't seem to do anything else because she's in her head. And it's the only place that she's there because she is in fight or flight mode. And she sits in that space a lot. And I really see that. And so that's not a grounded space. It's not a space where you're feeling that it's okay to express yourself, to be free. The people that we feel most connected with in when we meet someone new and you say, oh, isn't that a lovely person? It's a person who actually has a sense of freedom to express themselves and just be themselves, not trying to be something else, not scared, fearful. So that person is sitting in a very grounded space, and we as humans are attracted to that because we know that feels good, right? And being grounded means that we're not in that fight or flight, we're not all crazy, that the body is working well, and we can really it's just this, it's a free space, it's a space of balance.
Yeah, what comes up for you, Carrie?
Yeah, I think so much. I really appreciate you starting, Bronwen, because I knew you would have so much to share and ground us all into this conversation. But I think some of the reasons why it's the question why we aren't grounded, is that the question we're looking at right now, or how hard it is to get grounded?
We have this charcuterie board of questions, right? We have the question of, what does it mean to be grounded? How does it feel? How do we know whether or not we're grounded?
Yeah.
Then we have why is it such a challenge to get there, and how might we get there? So your pick.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I'll go with the challenge part. Why is it hard? And then maybe talk a little bit about what it feels like to be is one of the things I think, all of what Bronwen said, and is that we are living such a chaotic modern life, right? And we are not regularly walking with our bare feet on the earth like our ancestors did. We think of our just range of motion, like so our ancestors, if they wanted to go grab water, they had to go down to the creek or down to the well and back. We just go to our kitchen sink. And so our modern life brings us these amazing conveniences. And then I don't know about you, I drive a lot as well, so I'm just driving and all of that, I think, and all of the frequencies that we're exposed to in our day-to-day life. I think those all of this kind of contributes to a general malaise with ungroundedness. In addition, trauma, I think, is such an important part of that. Of perhaps there is something traumatic that we've either lived through or going through currently that makes our present day reality a challenge to sit with, to be with. So I think one of the main reasons why we are ungrounded is that there is undigested emotion, also undigested mental stuff going on in our life. And I think our mind is particularly susceptible, or has a problematic with all of these frequencies, like electromagnetic frequencies, like our cell phones. We're on Zoom right now, all of those things. And so without a solid grounding every day, that can lead to a lot of chaotic thoughts and energy. And especially if you're a Reiki practitioner, you might be more sensitive to energy as well. And so that can make it all a struggle. But I think, when I'm ungrounded, it's hard to determine what is like the biggest priority for me to get done. And maybe it just feels like everything on my to-do list is, large and in charge. And that's also, I think, another sign I'm ungrounded is I have a lot of things that I want to do, but it's hard to prioritize what needs to get done and when. And it leads one to the state of basically overwhelm, right? And when we're in a state of overwhelm, it's hard to get grounded. But a daily practice like Reiki, where we become silent, we close our eyes, we turn off some of this extra sensory input and just get still with our breath and our body, that can be incredibly useful. And yet, for a lot of Reiki practitioners, I think that their Reiki meditations or their time to connect to themselves with Reiki might have a lot of additional pressure of seeking something outside of themselves. So seeking some guidance or some wisdom or something, that they're going into every meditation with such rigid intentions that just coming back to oneself, coming back to your center isn't a top priority. And I'm saying that to myself as well, because I do this a lot. So, there's some literature out there, there's some science out there, and even within meditation circles, you talk about how meditation can become an addiction if we're not using it to look more closely at our reality. We're using it to disconnect from our reality in some way. And so it's just always an important thing to be mindful of. And so I feel that when I'm in a really chronically ungrounded place, or I see that with my clients and people I have an opportunity to work with, students as well, is that they need some healing to get grounded. They need to kind of come in to reality, into the present moment with a sense of healing. Like, what is it that is uncomfortable for me to feel or digest? And so, and we can know this pretty easily, because it's like, as soon as you close your eyes, what's that thing that you want to think about? What is that thing that you're processing? That's more than likely the thing that's kind of keeping you ungrounded. And so when I'm more grounded than ungrounded, I can just be in the present moment. I can go with the flow. I can, have joy around taking care of my basic needs, like not getting pissed off about loading and unloading the dishwasher again. I try to take that as an opportunity actually to do my practice, to do the mundane things in my life with joy, and to remember who I'm serving and how I'm supporting my family, because as a mom, I do a lot of that, supporting my family. And and then I can also make priorities. I can decide, even though if I feel like I have a lot of things that I want to accomplish, I just try to focus on one and get all the way through that, to give myself a sense of accomplishment and to not let all of this other noise into my day-to-day living. And so I think that that's really useful. And I think a lot of times, so from psychology, the root chakra has 4 legs, like 4 legs of the chair. So the things that psychologically get us grounded are our home, the roof over our head, our major relationships, our health, and our career. And so those are like 4 legs of a chair. And if we have those 4 things in our life, then likely grounding isn't that big of a deal. Or, still might be challenging for some, but you have this routine where you go to work and your health is good, and you have a home over your head, a roof over your head, and the major relationships in your life are supportive and nourishing to you. That's a sign of a healthy psychological place to ground, a safe place to be. But in our life, and in times in my life, I haven't had some of those things, or whether it be stability in my relationships, stability in my career. So I'm always trying. It makes one struggle more. What I'm trying to say. Makes you struggle more to be grounded. And so I found that people have had an opportunity to work with, and in my own life, when there's one part of that stability that's not there, it's hard to get grounded, because every day we're confronting the challenge of getting our needs met, and the exhaustion that can lead us to, right? And a need to nourish other parts of ourselves as well. So those are just some of my thoughts about why it's so hard to get grounded, what it feels like, and I'm sure you have some wonderful thoughts to share with us too.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, it's like it's a simple topic, but it actually has so many layers once we start opening it up. When I think about, what it means to be grounded for me, it's really for me about my level of awareness and kind of conscious connection to the ground, and by extension to my body as representing, my piece of earth is this body, and the relationship between those two. And that connects with, some of the things you've already named, our sense of safety and security, of stability, of, having structure in our life, even if the circumstances of our life, of course, as they will change, will be chaotic sometimes, will be challenging, will be unexpected. And so, for me, like when I think about what does it feel like to be grounded, it feels like mental clarity, like, a sense of calm, but still calm while still being fully connected to the present. That was also mentioned. I personally have a history of dissociation when things get really difficult. And that is really this kind of disconnection between the mind and the body. And one of the symptoms of that for me is often an inability to make decisions in those moments, and like a fog around what the next right thing to do is. So I know that I'm grounded when I'm both calm, and the other point there being that often that will feel like a false sense of calm. Like the value of it to me is that in a chaotic situation, I feel calm, but I'm also fuzzy and disconnected, and I can't make decisions, and I don't know what direction to go in. And so to be grounded feels both calm and connected to the moment, and therefore to my ability to make decisions. And that can be true even if the circumstances around us are very chaotic, are very challenging, are going off the rails in various ways. For example, my two cats are just started fighting each other right now, just over there. You might hear them hissing, and they are creating a bit of a chaotic situation in my house right now. And so there's so those are some of the pieces that where I know that I'm grounded when I feel that way. And again, as you said, Bronwen, it's really connected to that first diamond, which is connected to our body, which is connected to our sense of solidity, right? The solidity of our body. We often use the metaphor of the mountain having that stable, strong foundation, and then kind of an elegant lifting up from that foundation. We can get tall and spacious and wide and open because of the strength of our foundation. And so, then the question, why can it be so challenging? We all have a body, we all have our feet on the ground, most of the time. But we can be grounded when we're up in an airplane, right? We can be grounded when we're up in a tree, right? But the reality is we're almost always on the ground, right? But so often we don't consciously feel the lived reality of that, the connection to that. And therefore it can be very challenging to know our next step, right? If we think about, it's like it's metaphoric, but it's also literal. When we're grounded, our feet are on the ground, we can take a step, we can take a next step, we know which direction to go. We have that clarity, that connection to the present, our ability to make decisions. And so, why is that so challenging when it's literally our physical reality most of the time? Some of the things that you've mentioned that I want to highlight, and then some pieces to add. We're a very cerebral society, right? We are very much encouraged and rewarded for the powers of our mind, for thinking, for solving problems, for strategizing, for creating a plan, for knowing all the things, for banking knowledge, for predicting the future, for analyzing the past. We're incredibly mind centric. We're rewarded for the power of the mind, and we are, we're punished in a sense, or we're disregarded when our capacities and our abilities and our strengths are more of the body or of the intuition or of the feelings. And so we have a strong kind of cultural pressure and also training in being very second diamond centric, right? And not second diamond in its fullness, right? In its fullness, our second diamond includes spaciousness and emptiness and openness, as well as vision and possibility, not just thinking and mental function. It includes that, but it's more than that. So we have this over reliance on the mind, on the second diamond, that kind of just from the start makes it challenging to stay grounded, because it's not in our training to stay grounded. And then when we add on to that some of the things that you all have mentioned, right? Situations that are incredibly challenging, that are perhaps traumatic, some of the most powerful and effective strategies for dealing with traumatic situations that we have developed as a being are in the realm of disconnecting our mind and our body. I mentioned dissociation. That's a version where, truly our mind is very unaware of what's happening with our body. This is an incredible capacity, an incredible strategy that we have developed to cope with intolerable situations, right? There are times when we are in intolerable situations. How do we tolerate them? Well, leaving our body is one of the strategies that we've developed. It's a powerful strategy. But when we're no longer in that situation, and we're still not connected to our body, or we haven't processed the experience of whatever that situation was, now we've lost the ability to be grounded, the ability to be clear and calm in the midst of chaos, the ability to make good decisions, the ability to stay on track, stay on a path, even when things are difficult. So, our society being heavily cerebral, very mind focused, and also not having a comprehensive understanding of the embodied nature of trauma. We are gaining that understanding. We have come so far as a culture and in science, scientific sense of understanding that and starting to implement more embodiment-based responses to trauma. But the reality is, all of us at some point, statistically speaking, 90%, but I would say probably all of us at some point have some sort of experience or multiple experiences that are incredibly frightening or dangerous, or incredibly stressful, and that can trigger this impulse to become ungrounded. Again, incredible strategy, but it has a big cost. It takes a toll on our day-to-day life. And I would add to that, maybe perhaps because of all of that, we also have certain frameworks and perspectives and rhetoric that come through certain spiritual communities that I would say kind of exacerbate this mental focus, or this focus on leaving the body, leaving the earth. There's a lot of, there's certain strains of thought and discussion within certain spiritual communities that really emphasizes, ascension and leaving the body and being in space and being out of the body. And there's nothing wrong with experiences that have us feel otherworldly, right? That have us feel out of the body, that have us feel connected to a wider, universe. That is certainly part of some of the esoteric traditions that underpin Reiki. However, from those traditions, there is always this preliminary step of getting grounded, right? That we can expand and explore and become spacious and become empty and become vast, because we are so held and so supported by the ground beneath us. I think I mentioned that we just wrapped up this 21-day medicine Buddha mantra practice, and the visualization that is associated with that practice, has you imagine yourself in the vast universe and becoming as big as the universe and all kinds of really amazing, imaginal experiences. But the first place you start is imagining yourself sitting on a small patch of earth, that all of this expansion and universal connection that happens in this visualization begins with making sure that you have your patch of earth and that you stay there, and that's your home base. And so I think there's a spiritual subtlety there that I hear sometimes getting lost in the overemphasis on ascension, on the universe, on space, on alien beings, on, just this kind of going up and out and away kind of rhetoric. That troubles me. It does. And I think that it reinforces a tendency towards dissociation. It reinforces a tendency towards, being in the mind more exclusively, and it's missing an important piece that helps us to retain our humanity as we're exploring, the possibility of being more than human, and staying grounded, being connected to the earth from which we are literally made, is an essential part of retaining our humanity. And grounding is how we do it. And the amazing thing is, it's actually extremely simple. Grounding practices are among the most simple and accessible. The example that you gave, Bronwen, hand on the hata, focus your attention there, breathe. Simple. Notice your feet on the ground. Simple, right? And we'll maybe share some more of those types of practices in this space. But that's the good news. They're simple. Challenges, we have to remember to do them, and we have to value them. We have to see their importance.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about what you both said, and Carrie said something about meditation and being, how that thing of like we can go into meditation wanting to, I don't know, be something else, yeah, which is sort of that disassociating, I guess, in some ways too. But it just reminded me of, like we talk about there being two types of meditation, and I think it's the first type is really, if we think, we call it focus, but in reality the first type of meditation is the grounding meditation. So it's the, if we think of taking steps, so we do the first type of meditation to teach ourselves how to we, like I said, focus. But what we're actually saying is not to go into that place of, wanting to be this or wanting to be that, because we know that that's what we can fall into very easily. So instead, the meditations give us something to focus upon. And if we can focus clearly and for length of time on these meditations, we start training the brain. And so the brain doesn't do that crazy cartoon thing. And, so it's just like this brain just following where we're asking it to go. And that is really grounding, because we're just saying, slow down, let go of the rest, be here now. And then we can move into that second step. And the second step in meditation is where we just are, but we can't just do that, And in many ways, that reminds me of what you were saying, Michaela, about, moving up into the head, and that fabulous sense of just openness that we can experience in that space. And which, yeah, I was just sort of finding the correlation between both of those, that the second type of meditation, which we step into after we've taught ourselves to focus, is very much the same idea, that first we ground ourselves and then we allow we can have that freedom to be able to be open. But otherwise it's very difficult for us to do that, because the brain it's too easy for us to lose focus and be all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love so much of what you guys said, and I think what's helped me so much to get grounded is physical exercise as well. So just to throw this is that
Yeah.
sometimes we just need something more than a meditation pillow to get ourselves out of the head. Like we really have to push ourselves physically, to just give the body also what it needs. We need healthy exercise as a fundamental human need. It really is. And to get the blood pumping and to get the heart moving and all of that, it really helps you feel more alive, right? It brings every cell of the body more awake. Whereas if we are, like you were talking about, Bronwen, like stuck in our head, it's like there's these whole complicated thoughts that are going on in our head that we think are true or are important, right? And my background in yoga has really helped me with this, because in yoga there's so much emphasis on knowing that the mind isn't always true. Every thought that we think isn't necessarily true or reality. So it's about learning to decipher that, and also to move beyond these chaotic states of mind, to learn how to calm the mind, and ultimately get outside of what they call the chit vrittis, which are these like anxious wheels of thought that we can get very much stuck in, right? And I know for myself, I usually wake up in the middle of the night and my mind just like spinning, and I'm thinking about all the things that I need to do. Like, like the lunch I need to pack for my kids, and, this, that, and the other. So it's actually grounding and letting go of those things that helps me release all of that, and to be more in a state of balance and ease and flow with what is. I think another thing that I've really learned on my path too is that groundedness is essentially being willing to accept the present moment as it is. And one of the reasons why one could get ungrounded is because we're trying to make the present moment better for some reason. And this can definitely get in the way if you have an addiction or addictive personality issues. So it's like, yeah, this is the present moment. It'd be so much better if it was this or this or this or this. And when you just keep asking for more than what is, and that can be really dissociating as well. And also thinking about that within the context of Reiki. So if that's our intention of like, just need to be better, I need to be somebody that I'm not, or trying to diminish a certain part of ourselves, or not being willing to sit through some emotional discomfort, that can just kind of push us out of the present moment, right? And not be with what is. And it's hard to do, right? It's not easy, and no one's gonna win a gold star for being the most grounded person in their life, like, and we live, an incredibly wide and diverse time where we have so much access to entertainment and to many things that can be distracting. So one of my meditation teachers once told me, she said that meditation might be this gift that the ancient ones developed for us in this time. Like that all these generations before us, they were, doing all these things, yeah, of course, for their own healing and spiritual development, but it was also like this lineage gift that we're giving it also to future people, because we, I don't live in such a way, so I'm so connected to the earth that like I'm living outside, or I get my water from the well or anything like that. I actually really admire my ancestors for doing and living that way. It kind of trips me out to think that in 3, 4, 5 generations, we've totally changed how we live and how we relate to the earth and in our daily living. But that thought itself is not very grounded in today's modern society. So, anyway, so those are just some of those things. But to know that like we don't have to get it perfectly either, that we can just take these mindful moments to just be with what is every day, and to take the essence of that every day into our life. And I think that that's really what Stewie was talking about when he's talking about the precepts. It's just taking the essence of our practice into our daily life. And how does that enrich us? And it back to the medicine Buddha topic, it's just like it's immeasurable how it enriches us, but it does. There's this this beauty that it imparts to us, wisdom that it imparts to us. When we can live our lives that way, the beauty of that is that we're more connected to things that matter, more present to our journey and our life and the things that we really care about.
I was I visited my dad in Pennsylvania this past August, and he has a big garden there, and I garden here, and so that's something we always connect around. And I did an interview with him about his garden and his pathway to the garden. And one of the points that he made was that, as I said before, we have this heavily cerebral culture, and me and my family are absolutely a reflection of that. Like both of my parents, like super cerebral thinkers, writers, academics. And my dad in particular is just like, his whole life has been about thinking and writing and creating and analyzing. It's a significant part of who he is. And so, as he retired and kind of let go of his job that was focused on that, he kind of went in two different directions. One, like going into, research and thinking realms that were more of his own passion, not associated with his job, but he went immediately to the garden. And he talked about that being this absolutely powerful, instinctive understanding that like he had to get grounded. Like he needed to do this for his like mental health, right? Going into retirement, going into this change of life, and that he needed to literally get his hands in the ground so that he could finally be in the present moment, right? That he lived his whole life in the past and the future in this kind of analysis and creation cycle. That was amazing, and he's extremely good at it, and it's produced amazing things. But that there was this cost, to his spirit and his health, to not be able to be in the present moment. And so going to the garden, and he said, I didn't read any gardening books. I didn't watch any gardening videos. Like I didn't pursue gardening knowledge at all. I just put my hands in the ground and put seeds in the ground and followed what happened next, right? And that was so profound to me. Like even the idea that I just assumed that he would have gone hard into research and study about how to be a good gardener. And he was like, no, I like intentionally had to not do that because it was so clear that I had this deficit. And I so related to that. That's definitely how gardening has functioned in my life. And I, along with being in this culture of the cerebral and the academic, also, I have ADHD, so like my mind is always all over the place, up in the air. And you like, if you pay attention to astrology, like my astrological chart is all fire and air. So it's like I'm predisposed to being up here, moving all the time. And I'm like, it's no wonder that I feel so devoted to Reiki, because the first thing we do anytime we do anything with Reiki is to get grounded. And it, really occurred to me just kind of in that conversation with my dad and thinking through those implications that like, that's a big part of why I'm so devoted to this practice. Because just intuitively, I know that I need to have something absolutely consistent and simple and easy to reach for, and that I've habituated to bring myself back down. And And it's been really powerful to be able to leverage both the, ability to be broad and up and moving and all the things all at once, but then also, okay, to be able to come into the ground when we need to. So, yeah. So anything else come up for you around this?
But we were talking about, so in the next podcast, that we might do some practices with that. So with grounding and then moving up into the heavens, and then finding that balance at the heart. It'd be really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so friends, we're in discussion about kind of incorporating more practice sessions into these podcasts. So far, we've primarily been in discussion, but there's great value in coming together and being in practice. And so we're going to try it out. We're going to offer a couple of episodes coming up that focus on practice, and probably a little bit of discussion too, but that focus on practice. And we would love to hear from you whether that's something you want, whether that delights you, what the impact of that is for you, whether you followed along with us on the practice. So please do offer your feedback about that to us so we can continue to tailor this content to what is most supportive for you. And we will be back, of course, next week with that offering. And until then, we really encourage you to find some way today to just notice your feet on the ground, even if you're inside. But if you can get outside with your bare feet on the earth, you will be doing yourself a great favor. So from all of us here, be well, be grounded. We love you. Until next week.